Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, not in some distant wilderness, but in the landscape of your own mind. The wind howls, a chaotic symphony of doubts, fears, and unspoken desires. Below, the abyss yawns, dark and unknowable, whispering questions you've avoided for years. Who are you, really? Why are you here? What's stopping you from becoming who you're meant to be? Above, the sky churns with storm clouds, heavy with the weight of a reality that feels suffocating, unyielding, like a script you didn't write but are forced to perform. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and a voice inside screams, "Something has to change!" This is not a dream. This is the moment when the universe turns its gaze upon you, examining you with an intensity that feels both terrifying and exhilarating. It's the moment when life stops being a passive rehearsal and becomes a crucible test to see if you're ready to shed the old and step into a new reality. But how does the universe examine you? What is it looking for? And why does it feel like the stakes are so impossibly high? We live in a world that demands certainty, productivity, and control. We're taught to plan every step, to suppress our doubts, to wear masks that hide our vulnerabilities. Yet, deep within, there's a restlessness, a gnawing sense that the life we're living isn't the one we were meant for. We feel it in the quiet moments, the late-night questions that keep us awake, the fleeting glimpses of a bolder, freer self, the ache for meaning that no job, relationship, or achievement can fully satisfy. This tension, this inner storm, is not a flaw. It's a signal. The universe is watching, testing, preparing you for a transformation that will redefine your reality. To understand this process, we turn to the wisdom of Carl Gustav Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst whose insights into the human psyche illuminate the mysterious interplay between our inner world and the outer cosmos. Jung believed that life is not a random series of events, but a purposeful journey toward wholeness, a process he called individuation. He saw the universe not as a cold, mechanical system, but as a living, symbolic tapestry woven with meaning, where every challenge, every moment of crisis, is a test of our readiness to grow. In Jung's view, the universe examines us by confronting us with our shadows, synchronistic events, and the archetypes that dwell in the collective unconscious. It pushes us to face what we've ignored, to integrate what we've rejected, and to trust the unknown. This script is a journey through that examination process. It's a story of tension, revelation, and transformation, grounded in Jung's philosophy and brought to life through the art of storytelling. We'll explore how the universe tests you through the shadows you fear, the synchronicities that guide you, and the archetypes that shape you. We'll weave a narrative of a woman named Clara, whose life becomes a microcosm of this cosmic examination, and we'll draw practical lessons for navigating your own tests. By the end, you'll see that the universe isn't just watching you. It's inviting you to co-create a new reality, one that aligns with the deepest truth of who you are. Clara was 34, a marketing manager at a bustling tech firm in Chicago. On the surface, her life was a success story: a sleek apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, a corner office with her name on the door, a calendar packed with meetings and social events. She was the woman who had it all together, organized, ambitious, the one colleagues turned to when deadlines loomed. But beneath the polished exterior, Clara was unraveling. Every morning she woke with a tightness in her chest, a vague dread that no amount of coffee or yoga could dispel. At night, she lay awake, haunted by a question she couldn't articulate. Is this it? The tension had been building for years, but it reached a breaking point one rainy October evening. Clara was in her office, staring at a spreadsheet that refused to balance, when her phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Mia. "Dinner tonight? Need to talk." Clara sighed, tempted to decline. She was exhausted, and the idea of putting on her social face felt unbearable. But Mia's tone seemed urgent, so she agreed. At the restaurant, Mia looked different paler, her usual spark dimmed. Over glasses of Merlot, she confessed that she'd been diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease. "It's not terminal," Mia said, forcing a smile. "But it's going to change everything. I'm scared, Clara. I don't know who I am. Without my health, my plans, my control." Clara reached for her friend's hand, but inside, she was reeling. Mia's words echoed her own unspoken fears. What happens when the life you've built crumbles? Who are you when the masks fall away? That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She sat on her balcony, the city lights blurring through the rain, and felt the storm within her intensify. It wasn't just Mia's noose, it was everything. The job that drained her, the relationships that felt shallow, the sense that she was living someone else's life. She wanted to scream, to run, to break free, but she didn't know where to go or what she was running toward. In that moment, Clara was standing at the edge of her own cliff, and the universe was watching. Jung would have recognized this as the call to adventure, a concept he borrowed from mythology and integrated into his psychology. In The Hero's Journey, a universal pattern Jung studied across cultures, the call is the moment when the ordinary world cracks open, revealing a deeper reality that demands exploration. For Clara, the call was not a literal quest, but an inner semansa confrontation with the dissonance between her outer life and her inner truth. Jung believed that such moments are orchestrated by the psyche, often through crises or disruptions, to push us toward individuation, the process of becoming our true integrated selves. But the call is only the beginning. The universe doesn't just invite you to change, it tests you to see if you're ready. Jung argued that these tests come in three primary forms. The shadow, which forces you to face your hidden fears and flaws. Synchronicity, which reveals the meaningful connections between your inner and outer worlds. And the archetypes, which awaken the universal patterns that guide your growth. Let's explore each of these, using Clara's story as our lens, and see how the universe examines us before granting a new reality. The morning after her dinner with Mia, Clara woke with a headache and a sense of unease she couldn't shake. She went through her routine shower, coffee, commute, but everything felt off, like she was moving through a fog. At work, her boss called her into a meeting to discuss a high-stakes project. "We need you to lead this, Clara," he said. "You're our rock." Normally, Clara would have nodded, smiled, and taken on the challenge. But today, the words "our rock" felt like a weight crushing her chest. She excused herself, fled to the bathroom, and stared at her reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back was a stranger, hollow-eyed, tense, a mask of competence hiding a storm of doubt. This was Clara's first encounter with her shadow, a term Jung used to describe the unconscious parts of ourselves we repress or deny: fears, insecurities, anger, and unacknowledged desires. The shadow is not evil, though it often feels threatening because it challenges the persona, the social mask we wear to fit in. For Clara, her persona was the capable, unflappable professional, but her shadow was the part of her that felt trapped, unfulfilled, and terrified of failure. The universe, in Jung's view, uses the shadow as a mirror, forcing us to confront what we've hidden before we can move forward. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." For Clara, making the darkness conscious meant acknowledging the parts of herself she'd buried. Her longing for creativity. She'd once loved painting but abandoned it for a practical career. Her fear of disappointing others, and her resentment toward a life that demanded constant performance. But facing the shadow is no easy task. It's painful, disorienting, and often feels like a betrayal of everything you've built. Over the next few weeks, Clara's shadow began to surface in unexpected ways. She snapped at a colleague over a minor mistake, then felt consumed by guilt. She had vivid dreams of being lost in a dark forest, pursued by a faceless figure. She found herself doodling in meeting-swirling, chaotic sketches that felt like messages from a part of herself she'd forgotten. Each of these moments was a test, a question from the universe. Will you run from your shadow, or will you turn and face it? Jung believed that integrating the shadow is essential for individuation. To ignore it is to remain fragmented, living a half-life dictated by external expectations. But to embrace it is to reclaim your wholeness, to discover the strength and creativity hidden in your flaws. Clara's shadow was asking her to let go of the need to be perfect and to explore the messy, authentic parts of herself. But the shadow is only one part of the examination. The universe also speaks through synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that seem to defy logic. One Saturday, Clara decided to clear her mind with a walk in a nearby park. She was still reeling from the past week's outburst at work, the unsettling dreams, the growing sense that her life was a house of cards. As she wandered, she noticed a small bookstore she'd never seen before. Tucked between a cafe and a laundromat, the sign read, Anima Mundi Books, and something about it drew her in, like a whisper she couldn't ignore. Inside, the air smelled of old paper and lavender. Clara browsed the shelves, her fingers brushing against titles on philosophy, mythology, and psychology. She pulled out a book at random, Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung. She'd heard of Jung in college, but never read his work. Flipping through the pages, she landed on a passage about synchronicity, which Jung defined as the occurrence of two or more events that are not causally related but are meaningfully connected. The words hit her like a jolt. Was this a coincidence or something more? That evening, Clara began reading the book, and the concept of synchronicity captivated her. Jung argued that synchronistic events are not random but reflections of the deep connection between the psyche and the external world. They occur when we're at a crossroads, when the unconscious is stirring, signaling a shift in our reality. For Clara, the bookstore encounter felt like such a momentous sign that the universe was guiding her, testing her ability to trust the unseen. The synchronicities multiplied. A few days later, Clara received an email from an old art teacher, inviting her to a local painting workshop. She hadn't spoken to the teacher in years, and the timing felt uncanny. Then, while scrolling through social media, she saw a quote from Jung. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. The quote appeared just as she was debating whether to attend the workshop, as if urging her to take the leap. Jung believed that synchronicity is the universe's way of communicating through symbols, bridging the gap between the inner and outer worlds. These events challenge our rational cause and effect thinking, asking us to trust intuition over logic. For Clara, each synchronicity was a test of courage. Will you follow the signs or cling to the safety of the known? She decided to attend the painting workshop, a small but significant step toward honoring her shadow's call for creativity. At the workshop, Clara felt awkward at first, her hands clumsy with the brush. But as she painted a vibrant, abstract swirl of blues and golds, she felt a spark of joy she hadn't known in years. The other participants, a mix of amateurs and professionals, shared their stories, and Clara realized she wasn't alone in her search for meaning. The workshop became a turning point, a moment when the universe's examination felt less like a judgment and more like an invitation. As Clara leaned into her rediscovered creativity, she began to notice patterns in her thoughts and dreams. She dreamt of a wise old woman who spoke in riddles, a trickster figure who led her through a maze, and a child who laughed in the face of danger. These figures felt vivid, almost real, and she wondered if they were more than just dreams. Reading Jung, she learned about archetypes, universal patterns, or images that reside in the collective unconscious, the shared reservoir of human experience. Jung described archetypes as the building blocks of the psyche, shaping our behaviors, emotions, and stories. Common archetypes include the hero, the wise old man, the trickster, the child, and the shadow. They appear in myths, fairy tales, and dreams, but also in our lives, guiding us through challenges and transformations. For Clara, the archetypes were awakening, each one a test of her readiness to change her reality. The wise old woman in Clara's dreams represented the archetype of wisdom, urging her to trust her intuition and seek deeper truths. Jung called this archetype the anima, in men, the animus, the soul image that connects us to the unconscious. For Clara, the wise old woman appeared when she doubted herself, offering cryptic advice like, "The path is not found, it is made." This archetype tested Clara's ability to listen to her inner voice, even when it contradicted her rational mind. The trickster archetype emerged in moments of disruption, missed deadlines, spilled coffee, a sudden urge to laugh during a tense meeting. Jung saw the trickster as a catalyst for change, shaking up our routines and exposing our blind spots. For Clara, the trickster tested her flexibility, asking, "Can you embrace chaos as a teacher?" One day, when a power outage canceled a critical presentation, Clara improvised by sharing a story about her painting workshop, surprising her team with her vulnerability. The trickster had pushed her to let go of control, and the result was a deeper connection with her colleagues. The child archetype appeared as a symbol of innocence and possibility, reminding Clara of the joy she felt as a young girl sketching in her backyard. Jung viewed the child as the archetype of potential, the part of us that dares to dream. For Clara, the child tested her willingness to take risks, to pursue her passions despite the fear of failure. When she signed up for an art exhibition, submitting a painting she'd created at the workshop, she felt the child's playful courage guiding her. Through these archetypes, the universe was examining Clara's capacity to integrate the many facets of her psyche. Jung believed that individuation requires us to engage with these universal patterns, to recognize their influence and harness their energy. Each archetype was a question. Are you ready to trust, to adapt, to dream? As Clara navigated these tests, she began to feel a shift, a sense that her reality was softening, becoming more fluid, more aligned with her true self. Months passed, and Clara's life began to change in subtle but profound ways. She started painting regularly, filling her apartment with canvases that captured her emotion storms, sunrises, faces half hidden in shadow. She reduced her hours at work, negotiating a part-time role that gave her more time for art. She grew closer to Mia, supporting her through treatment and finding strength in their shared vulnerability. But the biggest change was internal. Clara felt more alive, more authentic, as if she were waking from a long sleep. This was the crucible of transformation, the moment when the universe's examination yields a new reality. Jung described individuation as a process of becoming whole, not perfect. It's not about achieving a static state of happiness, but about embracing the dynamic interplay of light and shadow, conscious and unconscious. For Clara, this meant accepting that she could be both a competent professional and a passionate artist, both strong and vulnerable, both grounded and searching. Jung's concept of the self, the archetype of wholeness, became Clara's guiding star. The self is not the ego, which clings to control and identity, but the center of the psyche, balancing all opposites. Jung wrote, "The self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference which embraces both conscious and unconscious. It is the center of this totality, just as the ego is the center of consciousness." For Clara, connecting with the self meant trusting that her journey, with all its tests and uncertainties, was meaningful. The universe's examination is never truly over. Just as Clara began to settle into her new reality, new challenges arose: a rejected art submission, a disagreement with her boss, a flare-up of Mia's illness. But Clara faced these with a newfound resilience, knowing that each challenge was another test, another opportunity to grow. The universe, in Jung's view, is a partner in our evolution, always. Clara's story is not just a narrative, it's a mirror for our own journeys. The universe examines each of us, using the shadow, synchronicity, and archetypes to test our readiness for change. Here are 5 practical lessons, grounded in Jung's philosophy, to help you navigate your own examination. 1. Face your shadow with courage. The shadow is not your enemy, but a teacher. Identify one fear or flaw you've been avoiding, perhaps a resentment, a doubt, or a suppressed dream. Write it down, reflect on it, and ask, what is this teaching me? By making the darkness conscious, you reclaim your power to grow. 2. Pay attention to synchronicity. Notice the coincidences in your life, a chance encounter, a recurring symbol, a timely message. Keep a journal of these events and look for pattern. Synchronicity is the universe's way of guiding you. So trust your intuition and take small steps toward the opportunities they reveal. 3. Engage with your archetypes. Reflect on the archetypes in your life. Do you see the hero in your ambitions, the trickster in your mistakes, the child in your dreams? Explore these through journaling, art, or meditation. By recognizing their influence, you can harness their energy for transformation. 4. Embrace the process, not the outcome. Individuation is a journey, not a destination. Let go of the need for instant results and focus on the small, meaningful steps you take each day. Whether it's pursuing a passion, mending a relationship, or facing a fear, trust that each step aligns you with your true self. 5. Find meaning in the struggle. The universe's tests are not punishments, but invitations to grow. When you face a crisis, ask, what is this moment asking of me? By finding meaning in your challenges, you transform suffering into wisdom, aligning your reality with your deepest purpose. The universe examines you not to judge you, but to awaken you. It's a cosmic dance, a partnership between your psyche and the vast, mysterious forces that shape reality. Carl Jung's insights remind us that this examination is purposeful, guiding us toward individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming whole. Through the shadow, we discover our strength. Through synchronicity, we find our path. Through archetypes, we connect with the eternal. Clara's story shows us that change is possible, even when the storm within feels overwhelming. By facing her shadow, following synchronicities, and embracing her archetypes, she co-created a new reality, one that honored her creativity, her relationships, and her truth. You too are being examined, tested, invited to step into a reality that reflects your deepest self. The universe is watching, not with cold scrutiny, but with a quiet hope that you'll answer its call. So, stand at the edge of your cliff, feel the wind, hear the whispers, and take the leap. The universe is ready to catch you, not to keep you safe, but to help you soar.